Hi, Kerry.
Hey.
We will attempt to do this again, and this time we will get the file and we'll put this up on YouTube. Last time, I don't know what I did, but basically ruined everything. You think being a smart community specialist, I wouldn't be able to. But here we go. I want you to tell us who you are and what you do and where you're from.
Okay, I'm Kerry Anderson. I live in central Victoria in a rural town. And for the past 5 years, I've been working, I guess you'd call it the consultancy space. I help build entrepreneurial ecosystems, particularly with rural towns. So I'm very much about change, about encouraging businesses and communities to look at existing landscapes with fresh eyes. So that's the big picture stuff. So I've been doing a lot of my work online for years and working remotely, and as well as visiting in the flesh running workshops and speaking at events. We've crossed paths a few times, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, so I guess that's been the biggest change to me for COVID-19 is, yes, I'm used to working from home. I'm used to working remotely, but I am missing getting out and meeting people in their patch and all those networking opportunities. But it's all been pretty good so far. Yeah.
And do you find like you would do a lot of online networking, being online for so many years? What is different in this online space compared to face-to-face?
For some, it's a bit daunting, but I'm excited that everyone's been encouraged to step up and embrace technology and chat with me. It's been a big learning curve for a lot of people, so patience is really good. And sometimes the weather, all sorts of things, rural towns, connectivity is not always so great. But on the whole, it's been pretty good. What I have noticed, and a lot of people are saying, because we're doing so much more online communication, particularly through Zoom, GoToMeeting, all those platforms, is it's actually quite exhausting because we have to focus so much more. But from my perspective, I used to attend board meetings quite regularly, nearly every week, and I'd have to hop on a train and go down to Melbourne. I'm loving it. I can read the notes here in the warmth of my own home, zip online, have our hour or 2 hour meeting, and I don't miss that 3.5 travel turnaround time at all. So, there's good and bad about it, but from my perspective, I think it's wonderful that everyone who have resisted embracing technology have been encouraged to step up, and they're learning and they're getting better at it as they go.
And I think because we are all, I read a post the other day about, we're not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm because each of our boats are different based on our current circumstances. So when we are all in the same storm, we are a bit more gentle, with each other. It's not like, oh gosh, can't you work out that? Whatever. We're actually going, oh cool, don't worry, I'll teach you, here you go. And a lot of this stuff is well, for me anyway, and maybe I'm millennial talking, but it's quite intuitive, and if it's not intuitive, it didn't pass the test, right? It didn't make the cut. So I think that's an important thing to remember, that you don't have to know absolutely everything and every nook and cranny of technology. You just need to pick the tools that are really serving you right now. And whether you're a rural business or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company or whatever, those tools will be slightly different. But trying to find somebody that can actually just sit down and have a chat with you and go through some things. I've been doing that. I'm calling our smart champions. And that's going to catch on, obviously. Smart champions that can just, I've been jumping on Zoom calls with my auntie who's a teacher, and, it's the first time she's ever taught online. And so we've just been playing around with Zoom, and she's like, oh, can I test out the polling function? And, I show her the back end and, the settings that she should set up, because we also need to consider privacy and security, particularly when we're dealing with, school children. And so I've been showing her, things to turn off and on and that type of thing. And so it's been really interesting that I'm able to kind of share. And it doesn't take that long once you, into it. But yeah, just sharing those smart skills that we've developed over the years with the rest of the community that, like you said, have had to embrace technology because of this time that we're in.
This pandemic is really, I see so much positive coming out of it. And I have to acknowledge, there's many small businesses, big businesses, it doesn't matter size, but some of them are really doing it tough. But on the other hand, it's forcing them to look at how they can do things differently, how they can embrace technology, how they can diversify, how they can collaborate more. So, it has been good in that respect at a personal level for us, reconnecting with family, using those tools. And rural communities, I find, are very resourceful. It's not about doing things just one way. Yes, technology is one tool, but it's also about making sure we, yell over the back fence, how you're doing over there, neighbour, anything you need picked up from the supermarket, those things. So I'm seeing so many good things coming out of our community, and I'm really keen that we don't return to normal. I think, we've been shaken out of our complacency. I think there's so much good to look forward to in going forward. And there seems to be a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel that, restrictions will be eased. But there's no doubt there will be financial implications for many months, if not years, decades to come, which is, really going to force us to keep, I think, innovating, finding out how we can work smarter, more collaboratively together. So, it has been a tough time for many people, but I've been quietly smiling, thinking this is wonderful. We're being forced to look at things with fresh eyes, and this is a message that I've been trying to get out to businesses and communities for many years, and some get it and embrace it, and they will ride that wave so much more easily. But now everybody's starting to paddle and think we've got to get on this boat and make the most of what we've got. So yeah, I've been really excited about this pandemic in some respects. Does that sound really weird?
I mean, I think I don't want to make light of a situation,
No.
but I think from we still need to think about how for us and our businesses that we're not necessarily pivoting, we're actually strengthening our own message. So, I mean, and also we're going to have all these different feelings. So, we might feel excited one day and then feel guilty about that because we know that people are suffering as well. So I think, just moving through those emotions is important. And I think that there are, I guess, times where we're kind of still doing, it's still, I don't want to say normal or a business as usual because we're calling it business unusual, is that we are kind of used to operating in this sense. And if everyone else wasn't, doing the same thing, then we might not feel any different at all. And I think that's also okay. But I have struggled with this collective heaviness and I've mentioned this a few times in the couple of conversations I've had, is that, it is a roller coaster of emotions that you go through because you don't want to, I guess, make light of it because people are suffering, but you then want to think about the potential opportunities for you and that you need to think about so you can ensure your future as well.
One thing we all share in common is uncertainty. Whether your business has been doing well or not so well, there's still that element of uncertainty about it, which brings an element of stress. There are some businesses that are stressed because they're struggling to meet demand. They're just so overwhelmed by the demand. It's the uncertainty of knowing whether your suppliers can continue to keep up so that you can keep supplying your goods. And I know you can refer to it as guilt, but I have had a discussion with a few businesses that are doing particularly well. They've got online platforms. They're still able to perform without much impact. And that guilt was mentioned to me. And I said, why can't you just be grateful? But they have been very aware that there are other businesses struggling and not able to operate the same way they can. But at the end of the day, we have to focus on what we can control and what we can't control. And my advice to businesses like myself who are impacted in the way we can, in terms of me going and delivering the keynotes that I was scheduled to do, or the workshops, I can physically do it on an online capacity, but not with the same impact. But I'm saying to business people in my situation and others where they have to close their shop fronts, this has been a wonderful opportunity to work on your business. And a lot of the mentoring has been going into businesses that have said, yes, we need to get an online presence. So that's been a wonderful feeling, that those that are a little bit more advanced, that already have established web platforms. One of my family businesses is very much in the Shopify field, selling online. So we've been able to do some online chats, helping people take that step, and something that they've talked about for years, but always too busy working in the business to work on their business. So it's been a great opportunity for us to help them, and also for them to make a really important change to their business that will strengthen them into the future. I think we will come through stronger. It is painful for some people, but I think we'll come out of it stronger together.
And that's a really good point. Like the thought of, guilt is actually not very useful. Like, it's not a useful emotion, right? But that grateful is a useful emotion, a useful, thing to appreciate. And even, doing, gratitude and all those type of things, but to not get too far into that, but actually then using that to be able to contribute, and whether that's contribute to yourself and your family to make sure that you're, we're all uncertain, but as much as we can control those bits that we can control, and focusing on that, because we're not feeling guilty, we're feeling grateful, so then we can actually move forward with those emotions and actions. But then also, maybe we can actually contribute more to our community now, because we've got such a high demand. Maybe we can employ more people. Maybe we can, and I'm just thinking about, so I've got too many things going on. I was talking to somebody else whose business is actually booming, and it wasn't because she was lucky or whatever. It was because she's worked on her business to be prepared for this, not necessarily this pandemic's obviously completely out of a different thing that we haven't experienced before, and particularly in my lifetime. But she knew that digital was important. She knew that she had to have a number of different streams, or whatever it was. So I think that's really, really important. And I think just to go, another post I read the other day, my business coach actually, and it was something like this pandemic feels like that exam that you haven't studied for, and so then you're cramming all the things in that you knew you should have done before, but you're actually cramming them in because that you've got this exam happening that you haven't planned for. And actually having an exam that I haven't prepared for is my worst nightmare. Actually, that's what I have nightmares about. My boyfriend would laugh at me for saying that out loud. But like, it's actually which goes to the point of what you were saying, is like, a lot of these things we knew we had to do them, right? And we knew that, and we've done a lot of those things, but you talk to people and they're, we'll do that down here, because it wasn't super important, because we could continue to get people to come to us, so we don't have to go out. And I think that is a really important takeaway, that that gratitude is really key to be able to move forward and contribute.
And it's not just the things that we know we should have done, it's also the things that we take for granted. It's I've heard it put like, it's a bit like oxygen. While you're breathing, you don't think about it, but the minute you're deprived of oxygen, whether it be something in your supply chain or your customers or the way you can do business, suddenly you've taken it for granted. We haven't thought about things carefully enough. And yes, some businesses are lucky enough that they've diverse enough, that they've got enough platforms to operate off, that it's minimised the impact. But it's no different to a bushfire or a flood hitting a rural community. Suddenly, everything is cut off from them, and they have to find new ways of doing things and pick themselves up. So rural people are very used to adversity, and from adversity, it's a great breeding ground for entrepreneurs. I keep reminding people, if something's cut off from you, you have to find a different way to do it. If you've lost your job and it's a permanent situation, or suddenly this little side hobby that you've always thought about turning into a business, you may have a chance to develop that up and grow that forward. And, so I think we need to be prepared for a lot of people moving in different directions, a lot of new ideas being tested. And I think there'll be a lot of goodwill with people to see more businesses succeed, because no business is an island. Your success is my success. We're all in this together. And obviously, through businesses, we pay taxes, which supports our government to put out welfare and support people that need support. So it is really important. We can't all be successful at the same time, but we need to encourage each other to be successful and support new ideas as they bubble up. Some will be slower to take off. Others could be immediately successful, but it's important that we encourage people to have a go in that respect too.
Mm-hmm. Can you quickly share some stories from rural Australia that you've seen, or that that you've heard of, of businesses that are coping with this time?
I've seen some really exciting things happen, and obviously businesses pivoting. The wineries and breweries that suddenly are now producing hand sanitizer, which is, some that I've written about. Suddenly here they are putting out advertising material saying that they're producing hand sanitizer. The other thing is, because if they're globally connected, it's really great that while one part of the world is struggling and not able to put in orders, another part is coming out of the pandemic and stepping in. Some of the lovely things I've seen is an established online retail platform taking in the items of other small businesses that traditionally do face-to-face selling through the farmers market. They don't have an online presence. And it's a big step for them to get that set up. So by taking someone else's products onto your platform and trying to keep a bit of cash flow going for them, I thought that was just such a wonderful thing to do. And it's rewarding both businesses, but it was those sorts of stories really do warm the heart. There's been other instances where I've heard where businesses have actually said, sorry, we're closing, we're not going to open again. If you read the backstory though, there's lots of circumstances leading to that. They were very lean. We've had a very long, dry summer. There's bushfires. The perception that bushfires are a danger has stopped a lot of tourism coming out to the rural communities. For some, it's just time to move on. In this respect, it's a bit like the straw that broke the camel's back, or okay, this is a good time to pull the pin. So we will hear a lot of that, and it won't necessarily be because of the pandemic. It's just created a time for people to say, we've had enough, let's retire, or I'm going to pursue something else. So we're seeing lots of those instances. I'm just waiting to see what are the ideas, the new business opportunities going to step into those spaces. And all those skills through businesses can easily be transferred to something else. Skills from employment can be transferred into business, into new platforms. We've just got to recognise that we don't have to do the same old. And I'm seeing those changes occurring. Will they keep producing hand sanitizer? Will they keep other people's products on their web platforms? They should. We all have to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's something I keep banging out. You don't want to sell to the same one's customer base. You don't want to sell the same one product. We need to diversify in so many respects. And the way we do business, if we don't learn something from all these change practices, I think, the staff welfare and giving them that opportunity where they can to work remotely from time to time. The increased hygiene in the businesses, that can only be good. And we should keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that I'm hoping that we use this time to really move through the time, but then think about what we want to shape our future to look like, because this shows that it's not set in stone. It never is and never has been really at all. And then the things that worked, let's keep them, or keep them at a whatever scale, and depending on your business and all those type of things. And the things that didn't work, then let's think of something else that we can do. So I think, really taking stock at this time. And one of the other conversations I had was about, this is a time for reflection. This is a time to, did we enjoy working at home? Did we hate it? Did we work longer hours? Did our mental health suffer? Did our back suffer because our chair is not very good? Or did we do more exercise? Did we do less exercise? So it's really a time for reflection, and then working out what our future wants to look like, and what our future for our communities wants to look like as well. And then put the steps in place once we, have moved through. And they keep saying that we're now at we're out of the most dangerous time. I don't really know what that means. My brain hasn't quite worked out what that means, because I feel like people are still in, and we were just talking about, quite disruptive situations, and there's all sorts of things still happening, and change is still happening, and the restrictions and all those type of things. But once they lift, then let's make some informed, and what's the word I'm looking for? Really, what's the word? Consistent, not consistent. What's the word I'm looking for? Considered, yes. Considered. No, there's one other word that I can't think of. Deliberate. We want to make some really deliberate decisions, and not just let's just go back to how it was, when that actually wasn't really good. But we'll just go back there because it's status quo and the way it was. Because, status quo is kind of out the window now, isn't it? So, yeah.
It never was. It was that way in a point in time, but we're always evolving. And a good way to look at it is, we have a canvas. We paint a scene, whether it be a business or a community, a central business district, but we have to keep retouching that. And every now and then, you just have to wipe over that canvas and start again. That's just been part and parcel. Whenever some disruption happens, whether it's a natural disaster or an economic disaster, or just new technologies become available to us, we need to keep retouching. This is the time to do a major repaint, and it's an exciting time for that reason, but we have to resist this feeling that we can just go back to doing what we did. That would be a terrible waste. We've got to learn from it and move forward, and understand that next time there'll be a different challenge of a different type, but we'll be a bit better prepared, because this has been absolutely unique. Certainly in my lifetime, what we've been through, and it's quite surreal when you think about it. But we've been very fortunate, most of us. Certainly those that have been affected health-wise, it's been a terrible time, and certainly it has stressed everybody in one respect or another. But it's been a wonderful time to, as you say, reflect, deliberate, and think about how we want to move forward in a better way.
Well, it's been so great to chat with you, Kerry. Thank you for coming back onto the podcast. And I really look forward to our next conversation, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other, whether that's virtual next in some kind of, innovative conference or something like that, or whether that's in real life in maybe a couple of months' time. Who knows?
I think a mix would be nice.
Yes, agreed.
Always lovely chatting, Zoe, whichever way it is.
Yes, thanks, Kerry. And we'll see you on LinkedIn. That'll probably be the next time I'll see you.
We will.
Talk soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye.